A new storm is gathering on the horizon for Canada's economy. On July 10, 2025, the United States announced a severe new tariff. This is a 35% tax on all Canadian goods entering the US, set to begin on August 1st. This move creates immense uncertainty for industries across our country. For the automotive sector, which is the heart of Ontario's manufacturing base, this news is particularly troubling. The integrated supply chains that have been built over decades are now facing an unprecedented threat. This isn't just a trade dispute. For many, it feels like an economic declaration of war. Directly targeting a vital artery of Canadian commerce and prosperity, the situation is made worse by other looming threats. Beyond the blanket 35% tariff, the US has also threatened specific taxes on Canadian cars and parts. Imagine a 25% tariff just on vehicles and a staggering 50% tariff on the steel and aluminum used to build them. These specific tariffs, layered on top of the broader one, create a complex and costly puzzle for manufacturers. It is currently unclear if the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, will offer any protection from these new measures. This uncertainty paralyzes businesses, making it nearly impossible for them to plan for the future, invest in new equipment, or hire more workers with any confidence. The justifications coming from Washington, D.C. have been varied and, according to Canadian officials, largely unfounded. The Trump administration has pointed to Canada's dairy tariffs and a trade deficit as reasons for these aggressive measures. They have even cited national security concerns related to fentanyl smuggling, a claim that Canada strongly disputes. Officials here are quick to point out that Canada is responsible for a very small fraction of the illegal drugs seized at the US border. This disconnect in reasoning makes negotiations difficult, as the stated problems do not seem to match the severity of the proposed solutions, leaving many Canadians to wonder what the true motivations are. This is a critical moment for our nation. The auto sector is more than just a collection of factories. It represents hundreds of thousands of jobs. These are jobs that support families and build communities, from Windsor to Oshawa and beyond. The decisions made in the coming weeks, both in Ottawa and in Washington, will have a direct impact on the livelihoods of countless Canadians. Prime Minister Mark Carney has stated his government will defend these workers, while opposition leader Pierre Poilievre has called the tariffs an unjustified attack. The political rhetoric is heating up, but what people truly need is a clear and effective plan. The fundamental problem with these tariffs is simple. They make Canadian-made cars much more expensive for American consumers. When a car built in Canada crosses the border, the 35% tariff is added to its price. This means a car that might have sold for $40,000 in the US will now be listed for $54,000. American buyers will naturally look at that higher price tag and compare it to a similar car built in a US factory, which does not have this extra cost. In a competitive market where every dollar counts, this puts Canadian vehicles at a severe and immediate disadvantage, pushing them out of the running for many potential customers. This price pressure extends all the way down the supply chain. It's not just finished cars that are affected, it is also the thousands of individual parts that cross the border every day. A transmission built in Quebec or an engine block forged in Ontario will also face these tariffs. This forces American automakers who rely on Canadian parts to either absorb the cost, which hurts their profits, or pass it on to consumers, making their own cars more expensive. Many will simply choose to find new suppliers within the United States, cutting Canadian companies out of the equation entirely. This ripple effect threatens the entire ecosystem of smaller parts manufacturers that are the backbone of the industry. The increased cost of raw materials like steel and aluminum adds another layer of difficulty. With a potential 50% tariff on these metals, Canadian automakers face higher production costs before a single part is even assembled. This makes it harder to compete not only with American plants but also with plants in other countries that do not face these duties. Canadian factories are forced to operate with much thinner profit margins, which limits their ability to invest in new technology, research and development. It becomes a vicious cycle. Higher costs lead to less investment, which in turn makes it harder to innovate and stay competitive in the long run. Ultimately, these tariffs create an uneven playing field that is heavily tilted in America's favor. For decades, the North American auto industry has operated as a single, integrated system. A vehicle might cross the border multiple times as a collection of parts before it becomes a finished product. This system was built on the idea of efficiency and free trade. The new tariffs dismantle that system, forcing a costly separation. This not only threatens to erase Canada's market share in the United States, but also to unravel the very economic logic that has made the continental auto industry so successful for so many years. To fight back against these tariffs, Canada must find ways to lower its own production costs. One of the most powerful tools available is automation. By investing more in robotics and advanced manufacturing, Canadian plants can increase their efficiency and productivity. Robots can handle repetitive tasks on the assembly line, allowing human workers to focus on more complex and higher-value jobs. This Industry 4.0 approach can significantly reduce the per-unit cost of building a car, helping to offset some of the financial burden imposed by the tariffs. It is an investment in technology that can make Canadian factories leaner, faster, and more resilient. Alongside automation, we must invest in our people. As machines take on certain roles, we need to help workers learn new skills. This means creating robust government-supported training and upskilling programs. A worker who once tightened bolts on an assembly line could be retrained to maintain the complex robotics, or to work on the sophisticated software required for electric and autonomous vehicles. This ensures that as the industry evolves, our workforce is not left behind. It transforms the challenge of automation into an opportunity for workers to move into more skilled, higher-paying roles, securing their future in a changing industry. The federal and provincial governments must also step in with direct support. This could come in the form of targeted wage subsidies to help manufacturers manage their payroll costs during this difficult period. Tax credits for research and development, especially in growth areas like electric vehicle technology, would also be a major boost. Furthermore, the government can provide low-interest loans to help companies afford the investment in new automation and equipment. These are not handouts, they are strategic investments to protect a critical sector of our economy and ensure our companies have the capital they need to adapt and compete on a global scale. Finally, we must look at all aspects of the production process. This includes finding ways to optimize our supply chains by sourcing more components from within Canada or from countries that are not subject to US tariffs. This strategy, known as localization, reduces our exposure to punishing cross-border duties. Additionally, there may be room for negotiation with unions for temporary measures, such as more flexible work arrangements that could help manage costs without sacrificing jobs. Every dollar saved in the production process is a dollar that helps a Canadian-made car remain competitive in the face of these unfair tariffs. For too long, Canada's auto sector has been heavily reliant on a single customer, the United States. While our partnership has been prosperous, the current crisis shows the danger of putting all our eggs in one basket. A crucial part of Canada's long-term strategy must be to actively seek out new markets for our vehicles and parts. This means looking across the oceans to Europe and Asia. Trade agreements like the one with the European Union offer tremendous opportunities. We must aggressively promote our high-quality automotive products in these markets, building new trade relationships that will reduce our dependence on the unpredictable American market. This push for diversification should focus on Canada's strengths. Our country is rapidly becoming a leader in the technologies that will define the future of driving. We have a growing expertise in electric vehicle manufacturing, battery technology, and the software that powers autonomous vehicles. These are high-value, in-demand products around the world. By shifting our focus towards these specialized segments, we can build a global reputation as a hub of automotive innovation. Selling Canadian-made EV batteries to Germany or autonomous vehicle sensors to Japan would create new revenue streams that are insulated from American politics. Building these new trade pathways will not be easy. It requires a concerted effort from both industry and government. Trade missions must be organized to connect Canadian suppliers with international buyers. Our diplomats must work to reduce trade barriers and champion Canadian products abroad. We need to market ourselves not just as a reliable manufacturer, but as a forward-thinking partner in the next generation of transportation. This is a proactive strategy that moves beyond simply reacting to US tariffs and instead builds a more stable and prosperous foundation for the future of our auto industry. Protecting the Canadian auto sector is about more than just economics. It is about protecting Canadian families and communities. The jobs in this industry provide a good living for hundreds of thousands of people, allowing them to buy homes, support local businesses, and build a secure future for their children. The strategies of automation, workforce training, government support, and market diversification are all pieces of a puzzle. When put together, they form a robust plan to safeguard these jobs and ensure that our auto industry not only survives this challenge but emerges from it stronger, more innovative, and more globally competitive than ever before.